Welcome to the Verdant Thermostat Manager. We will be reviewing each module, operations, energy management, configuration, users, and performance modules. Starting on the operations, this is where you will be brought to when you sign in. We can see an overview of all of the properties that you have access to. How many properties, how many users across each property, how many rooms, alerts, warnings, gateways offline, and rooms offline. As well, you can use the map to find your properties. Each pin, if it is green, is indicating a online property. Any red pin would be a property that is currently offline. You may also use the left-hand panel to access your properties, search between them via the search bar as well. I'm going to click on the Homewood Suites San Francisco Airport North, and we're going to go in and take a look at their thermostats. I'm now going to close the navigation panel by clicking on this vertical column here, marked by the green lines. So here we're accessing information about each of the thermostats. The first view is our list view, where we will see a column with various types of information. We have the location, the room number, a room name if you wanted to assign a room name to a particular thermostat, mode for changeover between heat and cool, the current room temperature, setback range, energy profile, as well as any alerts. Here we have a no contact with room alert, battery low alerts, as to remove or add different columns for the information that we want to be able to see. We can add humidity, occupancy, guest set point, temperature currently selected on the thermostat, the status, where we can see if the thermostat is off, on, or in setbacks, which is our energy savings mode, as well as whether the compressor is on or off, heater, reversing valve, fan status. Any information you want to see can be displayed below. We then have our grid view, which will show a tile for each of the thermostats. We have four different viewing options here. So over by show on the top right, we can show alerts. This will highlight those rooms with warnings in yellow, those rooms that are offline in this dark gray. And if there were any alerts, there would be shown in red. Efficiency. This will show us the percentage of runtime on average per day over the last 4 weeks. Less than 30% runtime will be in green. Between 30 and 50% runtime will be in yellow. Between 50 and 75 will be in this orange. And any that were more than 75 would be highlighted in red. We have occupancy, occupied rooms in purple, empty rooms in green. And finally, we have temperature, which will show the current room temperature on each tile. And then any rooms that are actively cooling will be in blue. Any rooms actively heating would appear in orange. In this section, we can also sort by the data points. This will group each related room together. So all those that are cooling, all those that are heating, all those with the HVAC currently inactive. On the other viewing options, we'll group them by alerts, by their efficiency level, etc. We also have the option for a floor plan view. Though not required, you can submit the image files for your floor plan to our support email, verdant.support@copeland.com. We can have them uploaded, and we'll have the tiles for each of the thermostats placed over there specific floor and room number. We can switch between the floors with the drop-down menu here, and the color coding can be adjusted to sort by efficiency, alerts, occupancy, or temperature, just like in the grid view. In each of these views, if you want to filter out which tiles are shown based on occupancy or alerts, or the combination of the two, you can select the options here. Notice each of these tiles has a checkbox in the corner. This is available on the floor plan view, the grid view, as well as the list view. This is how we can select a thermostat to make adjustments to settings, the room name, set point, etc. If we select just one room, we will have the option to adjust the room name, change the set point, change the energy profile, as well as utilize this VIP mode toggle. This VIP mode toggle will put a room into our VIP mode, which will have energy savings disabled for either 2 days or a custom duration. This is especially useful if you have a guest who is having some complaints about our system, and you want to make sure that energy savings is disabled for the rest of their stay. Let's say we have a guest who's complaining and is checking out on the 7th here. If at the bottom, this will put the room into VIP mode until noon on the 7th, at which point we will automatically go back into the previous settings that were assigned. This way you don't need to remember to come back and fix those settings at a later date. If we select multiple rooms, we can make changes to the energy profile or assign the VIP mode to each of those selected. At the top, we also have the option to select all of the thermostats, and you can make changes to all of them at once as well. If you are moving the whole property over into new settings, please allow 30 to 45 minutes for each of those settings to be taken by the thermostat, as it will go out a couple thermostats at a time. If you're moving just a handful, it should take no more than 10 to 15 minutes for those changes to be in place in the thermostat. The final thing that we can access from the operations module is the historical data. So while we get live data here in the grid view and the floor plan, we can click on either of the tiles or the rows here to access the historical data for each respective thermostat. So here we see our graph, and this graph is going to be showing us the room temperature over time in the green line, as well as occupancy information with the background color. This dark gray is indicating that our night mode was active, meaning energy savings is disabled as someone was detected or in the evening hours, and so we disable energy savings until the following morning. The white background is indicating when the room was empty, and you'll see two little lines of gray here. This is indicating occupancy during daytime hours. I can use the calendar here to go back as far as 30 days. You'll see now we have some red and blue lines. These red and blue lines indicate the heat and cool set points. So as the temperature is above the blue line, our thermostat will be requesting cooling. As it drops below the red line, our thermostat will request heating. When there are no red or blue lines, it is indicating that our thermostat was switched off. If there were any alerts for this particular thermostat, they would appear down below. We also have the same controls for room name, guest set point, energy profile, and the VIP mode toggle. One unique thing from this view, however, is that we can switch the thermostat mode between auto cooling only, heating only, or off. Wherever we hover our mouse across the graph, we'll also display the relevant information for that specific date and time of where we are hovering the mouse on the graph. We also plot the humidity percentage via the show humidity toggle over here, and we can see the percentage scale for the humidity on the right hand side. I'm going to close the view to return and go back to the live data. Next, we will take a look at the energy management module. The energy management module is all about energy profiles. An energy profile is a collection of settings that can be saved for different purposes. We have some preset profiles. These are profiles designed by Verdant that are not able to be modified. However, if you click on either of them, you will see all of the parameters that will inform how the thermostat will operate under each profile. The deep setback profile is intended for when you know a room is going to be unoccupied for quite a while. Maybe there's some renovations or a temporary shutdown, that kind of a situation. We will still maintain a temperature when someone is detected in the room. However, very quickly after they leave, we will go back into energy savings mode and we will allow the room to get fairly warm, fairly cold, potentially, depending on the outside temperature. VIP and level 0 are two profiles with energy savings disabled. The only difference between the two is that level 0 has our continuous fan mode option disabled. This means the fan will only run whenever there is heating or cooling ongoing, whereas VIP has our continuous fan mode option enabled. This means the guest will be able to use the fan button on the thermostat in order to select our continuous fan mode options, where the fan will run continuously independent of any heating or cooling. They also have the option to put it back into automatic fan mode as well. Level 1 through 5 are varying degrees of energy savings. Level 1 has a greater focus on guest comfort while still getting some savings. Level 2 is progressively more savings, and we keep getting progressively more savings focused up until level 5, which still does have guest comfort in mind, of course. However, it is certainly on the more aggressive side of the energy savings. You have the option to create your own custom profile. These are able to be freely modified, so you can make any adjustments that you like. In order to create a custom profile, you can click this Add New button, which will create a new custom profile down below. Or if you want to slightly modify one of our preset profiles, you can hit Duplicate, and it will duplicate the preset profile down below, and you can then rename it and modify it to your liking. You'll see here in gray, we have the unit number, or how many units are assigned to each profile. This property has 176 units assigned to this HWS standard profile. So let's take a look at how their thermostats are going to be operating. On the right-hand side, once we've clicked our profile, it'll populate all of the parameters that will inform how the thermostat operates. We can rename the profile up at the top. We can enable or disable energy savings mode. And then we have our when occupied section. And for each of these sections, we do have a little information icon so you can get more information about each particular parameter. But you can select the mode the thermostat will operate in, automatic or manual, whether we have our continuous fan mode option enabled or disabled. You can choose the minimum and maximum set point limit for the guest while they are setting the temperature in the room. This will limit the range that they can choose. We have our incidental occupancy threshold, which works in tandem with our energy savings mode for us to be extra efficient for very short visits into the room. We have our night occupancy settings, start and end time, as well as how long we need to detect someone before we trigger the night mode. When unoccupied section informs how the thermostat will behave during the energy savings mode, whether we have our humidity control feature enabled or disabled, how long we will wait to go back into energy savings mode once the guest has left the room, and then choose the absolute limits for our energy savings mode, minimum and maximum temperature. From there, we have some extra settings about when the occupant should arrive back into the room. This is our intelligence setbacks. Our thermostats learn how quickly the room they are in can heat and cool, and will adjust that minimum and maximum setback temperature in order to achieve the results that you select here. This particular hotel wants to be able to cool down the room to at least 72 within 20 minutes of the guest re-entering the room, and be able to heat it back up to 70 within no more than 20 minutes of the guest re-entering the room. Auto restore will tell our thermostat to please go back to the temperature that the guest had previously selected when they re-enter the room. We have some other settings here, more advanced settings, that I would recommend you to keep as the defaults unless you're in communication with our tech support team. And at the bottom, you can save or delete your profile. Moving on to the configuration module. This is where we can make some configuration changes for alert settings, Verdant Plus alerts if you are a Verdant Plus property. And then internally, we do have the option to make some changes to the savings calculations, which inform data for the performance module. Alert settings, you can control the temperature or the time duration that is required to trigger each of the alerts. Temperature too low, too high, out of range, humidity, connectivity with the online connection kit, any PMS integration, as well as with the thermostats themselves, alerts for the thermostats, or any sensors paired to those thermostats, as well as any duplicate room numbers. Next, the users module is where we can see any existing accounts, create new accounts. When we are creating or editing an account, you'll see the information on the far right-hand side. For creating the account, we can input the first and last name, as well as the email address of that user. This email address will be their username once you create their account. You can select whether they want to see Celsius or Fahrenheit, as well as which time zone that user is in. App access will determine which module this user will have access to. Operations, energy management, users, performance, etc. In order to make this selection a bit quicker, we do have some user roles that you can select: engineer, property manager, or access manager. The alert settings here control how this user is going to be notified about any alerts that appear in the system. Summary email, if selected, will send this user one email per day with a list of all the ongoing alerts at that time, and it will be sent between 6 a.m. and noon. If you click to include details, it will give you the full list of each room and what type of alert. As well, if you want to be notified live whenever an alert of a certain type appears in the system, you can select the raise checkboxes. You have the control to select particular alerts that you want to be notified for. The clear column here will do the opposite It will send you an email when an alert of that type is cleared from the system. We also have our Verdant Plus savings alerts if you are a Verdant Plus property. These are extra alerts that will help you better manage your properties and be informed more promptly about gateways offline. If you have not a lot of rooms going into energy savings mode and you get low energy savings, as well as if there are a high number of active alerts. Clicking save here, if you're creating an account, will send an email to the user you've just created with a link to the website. They can sign in with the email as the username, and they'll be, again, the password creation process to be able to sign in. Finally, we have the performance module. The performance module will show you return on investment information for the property. Here we can see that the initial system cost was about $53,000. Since the system was installed 66 months ago, Verdant estimates total savings of $233,000, which is a 433% return on investment. Our graph displays the estimated savings for each month. The brown column is showing without Verdant how much we anticipate the property to have paid for energy, and then with Verdant how much we anticipate they would have paid. The most recent month will be in purple, where we make a projection for where we think the savings will be at the end of the month. All of this information is based off of the consumption data, which can be modified in the configuration module if there's any inaccuracies with any of this information. Then down below, we have some runtime data for each month, thermostat count, how many thermostats went into energy savings mode. We then have a summary for the property once more, how many rooms are online, how many rooms are currently occupied, any number of alerts, warnings, gateways offline or rooms offline, and then the HVAC runtime reduction percentage. If you have access to multiple properties, this performance page will look a little bit differently, and you will see information about all of the properties within your access. It'll give you the information about total savings across the whole portfolio combined. And then down below, we can see some data for each of the individual properties, room count, active months, energy and savings, as well as the return on investment. This way, you can keep track of your whole portfolio very quickly and easily. And lastly, we do have some account settings that you can control by selecting on the little profile icon at the top right and account settings. Here, you can adjust some of your account information, change the temperature display between Celsius and Fahrenheit, as well as change the theme of the website to match your system default, or switch it between light mode and the dark mode. It'll then show you your app access and any property access.